In the quiet countryside of Wisconsin, where endless cornfields stretch toward the horizon and life moves with the slow rhythm of the seasons, there stands an old, weather-worn farmhouse. By day, it looks like any of the hundreds of homes scattered across the small towns here. But when night falls, inside, it becomes something else entirely, a world steeped in darkness, haunting, and so grotesque that even the most terrifying horror films could never fully capture it. Its owner was not the cold, calculating killer of Hollywood fiction. He was a soft-spoken man, quick with an awkward smile, someone who would fix a neighbor's tools or watch their children. But behind that gentle face lay twisted secrets, secrets that would shake the entire nation. His name was Ed Gein, and the story you're about to hear will take you deep into the shadows of a warped mind, a place where an obsessive, unhealthy love for his mother transformed an unremarkable man into one of the most chilling figures of the 20th century.
Ed Gein was born in 1906 in the small rural town of Plainfield, Wisconsin, a place where winters blanketed the fields in white and summers stretched on under the hum of cicadas. But Ed's childhood was far from peaceful. His father, George Gein, was a heavy drinker, unemployed, short-tempered, and often absent from responsibility. The weight of the household fell entirely on his mother, Augusta, a deeply religious woman to the point of fanaticism. Augusta believed the world beyond their home was steeped in sin. She forbade Ed and his older brother Henry from making friends and strictly prohibited them from interacting with any women other than herself. She taught that women, except for her, were sinful, deceitful, and corrupt. These lessons were not mere warnings. They were beliefs that seeped into Ed's very bones, drop by drop, throughout his childhood. To him, his mother wasn't just a parent, she was a godlike figure. Life in the Gein household revolved around farm work and endless Bible readings, where Augusta poured both her faith and her bitterness into her sons. They lived in isolation, building an invisible wall between themselves and the rest of the world. When Ed's father and then his brother died, he was left alone with Augusta, and his dependence on her only deepened. But in 1945, Augusta passed away. Her death was like someone tearing away the last pillar holding up Ed's fragile mind. From that moment, his world began to crack, and the darkness slowly began to seep out. After Augusta's death, Ed Gein's farmhouse seemed to fall out of time. He locked every room his mother had once used, her bedroom, the parlor, the dining room, leaving them untouched, like a frozen shrine to her memory. The rest of the house was different. It sank into clutter and decay. Dirty dishes piled high in the kitchen. Old newspapers and random junk lay scattered across the floor, collecting dust. But the most disturbing transformation was yet to come. Night after night, Ed began wandering alone to the cemetery under the cold glow of the moon. He carried a shovel, a flashlight, and an unthinkable purpose. When he found the graves of middle-aged women whose bodies resembled his mother's, Ed quietly dug them up. He pried open their coffins, lifted the corpses from their rest, and brought them home. But grave robbing was only the beginning. From those bodies, Ed fashioned things no one could have imagined. Masks made from human skin, chairs upholstered in it, bowls crafted from skulls,
clothing stitched together from sewn patches of flesh. The farmhouse became a private chamber of horrors. Every object was a body part. Every corner told a story of death. In Ed's mind, he wasn't doing anything wrong. He believed he was finding a way to keep his mother alive through the bodies of other women. But in that moment, the line between fantasy and reality, between a man and a monster, was gone forever.
November 16th, 1957. The small town of Plainfield seemed to stop breathing when Bernice Worden, the local hardware store owner, vanished without a trace. Her shop door stood wide open. Bloodstains streaked the floor, and in the sales ledger, the final transaction of the day was recorded. The buyer's name? Ed Gein. Police drove straight to Ed's isolated farmhouse on the outskirts of town. When the door creaked open, a wave of stench hit them, a foul, suffocating odor of long-decayed flesh. In the kitchen, they found Bernice Worden, hanging upside down from the rafters, her body gutted like a deer. And that was only the beginning. Throughout the house, investigators uncovered a nightmarish collection. Chairs upholstered in human skin, bowls made from skulls, skulls lined neatly on shelves, and masks stitched together from the faces of the dead. Some remains belonged to Ed's murder victims. Others were traced back to corpses stolen from local graveyards. Every detail of the scene was so grotesque that even the most hardened officers turned away. Evidence also linked Ed to another disappearance, that of Mary Hogan, a tavern owner who had mysteriously vanished in 1954. What had once appeared to be just another rural farmhouse was revealed to be a doorway into hell. And now the name Ed Gein was spreading across America, accompanied by a shiver that would never fully fade.
In the cold, dim interrogation room of the Plainfield police station, Ed Gein sat still, his hands resting on his knees, eyes avoiding every glance. The yellowed overhead bulb cast a sickly glow across his face, a face far too calm for the horrors that had just been uncovered. Investigators began with simple questions. Ed answered slowly, evenly, speaking as if recalling some familiar routine, not acts of unspeakable violence. He described the quiet nights when he would leave his home, carrying a shovel, a flashlight, and a singular purpose: to find the graves of middle-aged women who resembled his mother, Augusta. "I didn't think I was doing anything wrong," Ed said, his gaze fixed on the floor. "I just wanted my mother to come back, somehow. She was everything to me." He laid out, in chilling detail, each step: how he dug into the earth, pried open the coffins, and brought the bodies home. In his kitchen or shed, he would separate the body parts, carefully preserving skin, bones, and organs. No hesitation, no disgust. It was as if he were describing a practiced craft. Ed also admitted to killing at least 2 women: Bernice Worden, the hardware store owner, and Mary Hogan, the tavern keeper who had vanished in 1954. To him, whether it was murder or grave robbing, it was all part of the same goal: recreating the image of his dead mother. Hearing these words, even the most seasoned detectives fell silent. It wasn't the number of victims that left them speechless, but the calmness and the warped reasoning behind it all. Psychiatrists were called in immediately.
They diagnosed Ed with severe schizophrenia, accompanied by delusions and a disordered sense of identity. In his mind, the boundary between life and death barely existed. The dead were simply materials to fill the vast emptiness inside him. In 1958, the court declared Ed Gein unfit to stand trial. He was committed to Wisconsin's Central State Hospital for the criminally insane, where the cold, white walls would hold him for the rest of his life. But Ed's story was far from over.
The Ed Gein case quickly grew beyond the boundaries of an ordinary criminal investigation. The press branded him the Butcher of Plainfield, a name that sent shivers across America. Newspapers competed to print the most grotesque details of the crime scene, describing the household items fashioned from human remains. Each article left readers with the same chilling question: how long had someone like this been living among us, unnoticed? The fascination didn't end with the headlines. Hollywood quickly recognized Ed Gein's story as a goldmine for horror. The image of a solitary man obsessed with his mother, crafting objects from human bodies, inspired some of the most infamous characters in cinematic history. Norman Bates in Psycho, Leatherface in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Buffalo Bill in The Silence of the Lambs. Each character carried a fragment of Ed, the pathological dependence on a mother figure, the suffocating isolation, and the morbid fixation on the dead. In 1958, just months after his arrest, Ed's farmhouse mysteriously burned to the ground. The cause was never confirmed. Some called it an accident, while others believed the townspeople had destroyed the haunted house themselves. Items salvaged from the property were auctioned off, attracting both the morbidly curious and collectors with darker motives. Ed Gein spent the rest of his life in a mental institution. He never saw freedom again. In 1984, he died of cancer at the age of 77, taking with him the full truth of his crimes. Yet his shadow still lingers, not in the literal sense, but in our collective imagination. Every time an audience shivers at the sight of a cinematic killer, somewhere behind the curtain, the figure of Ed Gein is still there, watching.
On the quiet streets of Plainfield today, the old farmhouse is gone. No trace remains of its rotten walls, no lingering stench of death clinging to the wood. Only an empty lot overgrown with green grass, as if time itself is trying to cover the past. But has the darkness truly vanished, or is it merely lying still, waiting for another chance to rise? Ed Gein was not a serial killer in the traditional sense, yet his crimes shocked the world more than those who took dozens of lives. Not only because of the grotesque scenes found inside his home, but because they exposed a terrifying truth. Evil can hide behind the kindest face, inside the most ordinary house. Nearly 70 years have passed, and still the name Ed Gein sends a chill down the spine. Not because of what he did alone, but because he stands as a living reminder that the line between man and monster is thinner than we dare to believe. And perhaps somewhere, a story just like it is beginning right now.